Hello again, YouTube. This is Quanine81 again, and I'm going to start this video with just a quick little disclaimer. I'm going to be talking about birth control, female bodily functions, and politics, so anyone who is squeamish or easily offended, stop this video now, otherwise don't complain. If you have any impressionable children or adults with you, they should probably leave the room. So, I did a little bit of reading about this Sarah Palin character, and I have to say, I'm surprised, but I'm not. First of all, the only reason that John McCain picked Sarah Palin as his VP nomination is because she's a woman, and because she's a right-wing Christian. McCain was doing horribly gaining the votes, or gaining the confidence of American women and the evangelical right. So he figured, why not kill two birds with one stone by picking a fundy nut job who so happened to be a woman? Well, Mr. McCain, congratulations on giving yourself a political foot bullet by picking a candidate who is under ethical investigation in her home state. I recently came across a piece of information that her husband was at some point arrested for drinking and driving, and whose 17-year-old daughter is unwed and pregnant. Now, while I personally don't think that her daughter's mistake should reflect on her as a person, her daughter made a choice. Everyone, according to Christianity, has free will. Her daughter used that free will and apparently made a poor decision. I don't see how that reflects on Ms. Palin as a person, as a mother. Okay? Any parent, and many parents don't want to hear this, you have absolutely no control over what your child says, does, or thinks. You might think you do, but you really don't. Okay, if my parents had any control over me as a teenager, then I would have never smoked pot or done LSD or mushrooms, and that's all there is to it. I don't do these things anymore, and if anyone has any questions about that, I'll be more than happy to submit to a drug test. Anyway, as I was saying about family values and why the Republican Party is completely full of shit, and what this has to do with Sarah Palin. Sarah Palin made the statement that if someone raped her daughter and impregnated her, that she would choose life. She, as in Miss Palin, would choose life. Miss Palin, as I mentioned previously, your God, you believe, gave everyone, including yourself and your daughter, free will. Therefore, that is not your choice to make. That is your daughter's decision to make, and if you believe that God gave you free will, then that is God's will, and you should respect it. Secondly, Miss Palin is apparently against the use of birth control even among married people. In particular, the Republican Party lately seems to be focusing on a certain form of birth control known as an IUD. It's called that stands for IUD, intrauterine device. And intrauterine devices were invented maybe roughly 100 years ago. About 1,000 or so years ago, people in the Middle East discovered that they could stop their livestock from overbreeding by taking certain types of small stones and inserting them into the uterus of their animals, their cows, their camels, or what have you. That way they didn't have to worry about them overbreeding and having to feed more of them than they could afford to. In China, a long time ago, there were metal rings made of copper. For some reason, it has to be copper, that they would insert into a woman's uterus so that she couldn't have children. However, these particular metal rings were extremely difficult and extremely painful to insert and remove. So about 100 years ago, someone figured out that a very effective way to make IUDs less painful but still effective is to make the frame a T-shaped frame, sometimes they're shaped like a spiral, and just wrap it in thin copper wire. That way it's still fairly easy to insert. It's made out of copper, so it's still effective. It's sterile, it's clean, and it can be easily removed without causing significant amounts of pain or bleeding. People are leery of using IUDs because I have an IUD. I'll be honest with you, the insertion procedure is not excruciating, but it's not comfortable. The idea of having a physical object inside your body just creeps some people out. That's fine. It's not for everybody. But I so happen to be one of those women that my body reacts very badly to hormone-based birth control, like the pill, the patch. The shot sent me to the emergency room. So I went for the Paragard copper IUD instead, and so far I've had no complications with it. But the Republican Party apparently feels that life starts at conception and that IUDs are nothing more than an abortion-causing device. Well, any doctor will probably tell you that technically the female reproductive system is its own abortion-causing device. See, not every fertilized egg inside of a woman's system within 3 days after having sex, they don't all get fertilized. In fact, at least a third to half of them get flushed out. And so there goes the argument that life starts at conception, and that abortion is evil and wrong and murder because, sorry girls, but your body can do it completely on its own. Not all fertilized eggs have a chance to attach to the uterine wall and become fetuses. They do get flushed out. And the way that an IUD works is there's something in the copper that stops a zygote, which is the medical term for fertilized eggs, stops it from growing and stops it from attaching to the uterine wall. It makes an unfriendly environment for that to take place. Yeah. So, Mr. Bush, Miss Palin, Mr. McCain, abortion, if I knew I had a fetus growing inside of me, I personally don't think I would have the stomach to go through with it. I am not saying I'm a pro-lifer. The choice is entirely the woman's. But to say that taking preventative measures is the same as having an abortion is like saying building a nuclear weapon is the same as dropping it. They are not the same thing. Okay? So, Miss Palin, Mr. Bush, Mr. McCain, I have an IUD in my system, and I like it. It's the only thing that's worked for me, medically speaking. And if you don't like it, you're going to have to come down here and yank it out of my cold, bleeding corpse. Alright? So that's all I'm going to say about abortion, birth control, and all of that delicious, delicious stuff. So, yeah, this has been another rant by Kuan Yin 81. It's our choice, girls.